You either want to learn how to play RPG solo, or you heard about Mythic and you want to find out, can you actually play this without any other system, without D&D, Savage Worlds, or Traveler, Aliens, or whatever? I'm here to answer that question. Hello there, I'm J.M. Beraldo. For the last 20 years I've been working as a game designer for the video game industry, and I'm here to show you how to play solo RPG using just one book, Mythic. No other system. Shall we? Okay, so first things first, how Mythic works. The basics of it is the fate chart. The idea is, you ask a question, what are the odds of that thing happening? Let's say, for example, that your character is a pilot, and the question is, can he land safely in this location? I mean, if he's a pilot, if let's say that the weather is fine and all that, it should be easy, right? So you say that it's very likely. You roll a couple of dice, 93, yeah, no. So something happens. You create new scenes, and each time you go into trying to solve that situation until you get to the end of your story. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. You first need a character. So there's one thing that I learned in my experience of working in narrative is that limitations are always good. If you have too many options, yeah, you don't even know where to start. Sometimes the easy solution is to go for some kind of universe that you already like. Star Wars, Star Trek, Aliens, the Flintstones, anything. Because as soon as you have something like that, it's easier to create a character in certain situations that makes sense in this universe. So let's not start trying to create something from scratch, right? For example, I personally love Babylon 5. It's a science fiction series from the 90s where you have the space station in the edge of human space. It's always a lot of situations always happening. Every episode is a lot of action and diplomacy and drama, and around the same time you also had Deep Space Nine from Star Trek, which was a very similar concept. So I decided to adapt that idea to my own universe. Okay, so we have a setting. It's a space station, it's the edge of human space, there's different factions and all of that. I'm going to be playing a commander of that space station. Okay, so I know he's the commander, but that's not enough. We need more information. How exactly is this character? This is the trick. I'm going to take the idea for what a few RPGs does. Fate RPG is one example of that. Let's think about a story. Let's think about a sentence that defines who is this character. And here where Mythic already adds a lot. Second part of how solo RPGs are played are the called oracles. Oracles are basically tables with a bunch of stuff, usually words. Each of those oracles usually have a theme that you can use to help you with your story, with your characters, plot twists and all that. Let's create a character out of whatever comes from the rules. Start with the oracle called character background. Roll a couple of dice. 99. Wounded. Appearance. Another column. 37. Frail. Okay, he's wounded and frail. The descriptor. Another column. 35. Competitive. Really, the fact that he's competitive is the reason why he got wounded. Identity. I think that has a bit to do with the kind of character he is. Let's see. 26. Enforcer. Okay. You see that every time you roll something in a different table, it's slowly giving elements of the story. The story can start coming up in your mind. See what else you can get. Motivations. So there's a column for character motivation. 18. Diminishing? Okay, that's not so easy. Diminishing. Diminishing what? No, I'll get back to that later. Personality. 74. Protect. Skills. So there's one column for skills too, one oracle for skills. 46. Inform. I'll roll a second one. Don't need to build just one skill. 20. Control. Traits and flaws. So another column from Mythic. 10. Block. So this is what we have. You know, this character, his background, he was wounded. He's frail in some way. He's competitive. He was an enforcer of some kind. His motivation is diminish something. Personality is protective. He's good. His skills is informing and control. And his flaw is block. I have an idea here, but I think we need a name for this character. I'm going to use again one of my favorite tools for writing. So I have a story there. Guido Kaiser was an officer on the European Union's fleet. He was leading the defense force responsible for protecting a colony of the farther reaches from human space. Piracy was a problem there. The other problem is that he didn't want to listen. He really was doing that because he believed it was the best way of protecting those colonies. They had to listen to him because he's the one who knew how to deal with the issue. Unfortunately, he was wrong. So something happened. The ship he was in got seriously damaged. He got very wounded by that. After recovering, he was sent to Alexandria 4, which I think it's the good moment to talk about that. So we have a character. What's the story? What are you going to be playing exactly? You can't just throw the character into the station and say, yeah, play. Because like I was saying, limitations help. Mythic have two different kinds of tables. One is called threads, the other one is characters. You can kind of intermix both of them depending on how you're using it. But the basic idea is that a thread is a plot, is a situation. It could be a word, it could be a sentence, but something happening. For example, rioting, the population is rioting, or there are pirates in the system. We must colonize this planet. Every time a situation happens, you roll on this table to find out which thread is the most important one. We're going to start with that. I'm just going to roll an action and see what comes up. 99, usurp. I think someone is trying to take control of the system, of the station. Show a descriptor. 98, violently. Is someone trying to take over the star system? 12. So 12 is under 50, so yes, if someone is trying to capture the star system. Who is it? For what reason? Don't know yet. Maybe that's something that we can come across as we're playing. One thing that happens a lot in those series like Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine, it's usually you have two threads. You see that in a lot of those episodes usually you have those two stories happening at the same time, and at some point they kind of cross, either directly or indirectly. So I'm going to use that same concept. I'm going to roll another thread. 12, business. 46, horrible. Horrible business. You see the situation is not going very well. It's usurped violently, now there's horrible business. First thing that comes to my mind, it could be smugglers. Someone trying to smuggle something. If it's horrible, it has to be something very bad, like, I don't know, slaves or something like that. I'm going to ask that question to the fate charts. 86, so it's not slaves. Okay, so something else. So I mentioned there's two different tables, right? The second one is the character table. It could be a character, it could be a faction, it could be a creature. It doesn't have to be a specific character. It can be a mix of, it can be something more generic. If this was Babylon 5, you would probably put the other characters from the story. I don't know, Ivanov, Jakar, Londo. If it's Star Wars, maybe you would have like Han Solo, Luke Skywalker. In the same way that usually on series you can have a lot of characters, but usually you only have 2, 3 of them really being main part of that specific episode. So that's the idea. I had a few that I have created already for Alexandria 4, so I'm going to roll on them, but you could start with this completely empty. For example, since we know that Guido Kaiser has this story where that he was ignoring an officer, we could add that character, that officer that he ignored and led to him to be wounded as a character here. Would it make sense that maybe at some point that character comes back or indirectly? So I'm going to add that. I don't know who this character is, I'm just going to add him. Which character is connected to plot? Of course, just because I mentioned that, right? It's a 6, of course. Who is 6? He is the newbie who was ignored. Of course that character is coming back. How exactly, I'm not sure. Another one, Kirima. So Kirimashi is the representative of Shengnong Chemicals, which is a big corporation from Earth that if you've seen some other episodes here in this channel, you probably have an idea who they are. Kirima is not exactly the kind of character that follows the rules. Does Shengnong Chemicals knows about this horrible business that Kirima is involved with? 94? Unlikely. That's not only unlikely, it's an extreme no. So it means that Kirima is doing something that The corporation doesn't know and probably doesn't want to know. That's bad. Things are just going in a terrible direction in like just a couple of rows. We can find out the rest as we're playing. So one rule that Mythic has that's considered optional is what they call the thread progression track. If you play the game like Starforged or Ironstone, you have an idea. So it's basically, it's a track where every time you do something that progresses that thread, you're marking it. The bit of difference that they have in Mythic is that they create points in the middle of the narrative in which what they call a flashpoint happens. It's a big event. It's something that's really significant to that plot. But it's a way of helping to focus your adventure in that plot. This is what I imagine this scene is going to be like. Commander Guido Kaiser enters the breach because there was an alert out. One or more ships, warships, jumped in the star system. So in Mythic you have another element. It's something called the chaos factor. The chaos factor always starts with a 5. It basically changes the chances of things happening. So if the last scene that you played, you were in control of it, so things were basically going in your direction, the chaos factor tends to go down. After you imagine the scene, you roll a dice. If you roll higher than the chaos factor, it's exactly what you expected. But if you roll equal or lower, something random happened. So the chaos factor is 5. That's how usually you start. Let's see, is the scene exactly how I was imagining it? 1. So it's not? Already started with something different. So there's two different kinds. One is an altered scene, which means that it's the scene that you imagine, but there's something different. The other one is an interrupt scene. It means that that scene you were thinking didn't happen yet because something else happened before. If the roll was odd, which is the case, it was a 1, it's an altered scene. So something is different from what I was expecting. Of course, you can roll again. There is a table specifically to help you, to guide you in what kind of alteration happened in this scene. 2. Add a character. So there is another character in the scene. So I have to roll again. Who is this character? Kirima. Okay. I guess the plot is already going to start together somehow. The plot twist here is that you can be the commander of Alexandria 4. So yeah, I actually wrote a game where you were the commander and you make decisions in 5 episodes, each one with a different plot happening. You can find it on Steam right now. I'm going to link to the description. There's a demo there with the first episode if you're curious about how it plays out. If you want to see how the story goes, I'll keep playing this in the next video. I'll meet you there.